Hi, this is Phillip again with Universal Tool and Engineering, here to show you a little bit on Tech Tuesdays about programming in BendPro software.
All right, today we're going to take a little time. We're going to go over programming a new part using BendPro. First thing we're going to do, we're going to go to the new part wizard. We're going to create a new part. Got several options here: inches, millimeters, tube OD. You can list from a size, or you can just type it in. We're going to say we got 1 inch. 083 wall. And the CLR is 3 inches. Material is steel. Go next. You can also choose from programming YBC, which is your LRA, length, rotation, angle, or XYZ datum points. You can also select how many bends you want. Don't worry about it if you don't put it in to start with. You can always add this in later. I'm going to do YBC, and I'm just going to have 2 bends. You do have to give it a part number. It is required. I'm just going to name this one 2 bend. So that's all we're going to do. Description 2 90. I'm just going to make 2 90-degree bends. So it pretty much guides you through the process with the wizard. It takes you step for step, things you need to do, things you need to go through. So your first Y move is going to be your first length. I'm going to set those at 3. My in-between move, I'm going to be 12. And then my last Y, actually, yep, let's make that 3 as well. We're also going to run into things, calculating tube length, things like that. But based on this, you've got no rotations. Your C move, we're going to put 90 degrees. 90 degrees for the second one as well. You've got your COR, which is your bending centerline radius. As you see, it tells you in detail. Stack, depends on which stack number your tooling is set to. We may have to move this up to a second stack because we may run into an interference issue. You can keep going through by next. Move on to speeds. I'm just going to go ahead and set everything to 100. Enter. And as you noticed, it didn't change my return speed or my carriage boost speed. Typically, we like to start around 98. And this is a percentage. Now, every machine is going to be a little bit different. You're going to have several different options depending on what machine you're running. Currently, we are running a US 38 ED4A. Well, that's what I'm just set up to run here. Let's move on to the next page. Y torque. We can set a Y torque. If you leave it at 0, it's just going to drag. So typically we like to put even just a little something if you don't need the push power or the pull power from it. And we can just set this probably anywhere from about 5 to 20%. You've also got timers, clamp die, open timer, manual open timer. These are on top of if you didn't have a switch, things like that. You've got holds you can set. You can hold after each length move, each rotation move, each bending angle, and you can also hold before clamping. Several options. Do you want to enable your mandrel? We're not running a mandrel on this, so I'm going to go no. Build down. You've got early dropout, late starts. We typically do like to start late with our PDA, especially if it's hydraulic, because it likes to jump forward. So a lot of times just even 1 or 2 degrees. And the same with the dropout. With the servo decelerating, the hydraulics don't have the same option to decelerate. So they're just a bang bang. So it's just going to cut off directly. So usually we look around 2 to 3 degrees for this at least. Sometimes you can get up even to 5. You got your clamping orders, unclamping orders, several options. Like I said, these are going to change with each one. I just want to get you the basics here. So each machine dependent. You've also got the teach option where you can teach. We'll talk about this later in some other stuff, but pretty much this is going to give you what your X move is before advancing Y and B and returning C, and this is a YC. And you can get through all this, and you can see even running this in simulation, we may have to change some of this. Recapture, if you did have to recapture the end of the tube, that would be if the carriage had to get out of the way of the pressure die and then come back forward to make another grab to make another bend, which in this case we shouldn't have to do that. We'll move on to tools. Your clamp die length, and if you notice these are all set up, kind of gives you an illustration of what you're looking at over here, so you know kind of what to measure. This is your clamp die area. Usually we got 2D on most of our stuff. I'm going to go ahead and just set it up for a second stack, just like I was going to bend there as well, just in case we have to move this up because of a collision issue. Pressure die interference zone. As you see, this is just mainly the length of your pressure die and what it's going to take to get you around to that. This is also a calculation you can do. A lot of times it's based on, we base ours off 180 degrees. I'm going to go ahead. This is a 3-inch CLR. I'll say this one's going to have a 10. And then your front interference zone, what this is the first thing you're going to contact behind the bend die, whether it be bend head, a lot of times if you're on the bottom stack, your wiper if you have one, which is kind of shown here in the drawing on the side. But it's mainly from your center line back to the back side of your bend die, or the first thing that it's going to hit. I'm going to put 3 in this because we have a 3-inch CLR. We do not have anything else, so no wipers, nothing like that. X offset, this is for your side shift in and out. This is what your CLR is going to be. And then this one shows a collet offset. Sometimes we use extended nose collets, things like that, that stick out front, but there's going to be nothing on this. So then we get to a collet depth, and this one is going to be 1 inch. And then max bend angle, we're just going to leave set to 180. We have no issues with that. Moving on. Next thing is your load. The good thing about BendPro is all this stuff you can go back. If you leave it at 0, it's going to go to wherever the first bend stack is. You can set positions if you need things in and out of the way. Speeds are going to default to whatever your first bend line are. Same with your rotations. You can set seat load positions. There's a lot of different options and features inside of BendPro. You can use your pressure die to help position for load, to help it align better, to make the tube easier to slide into. So you've got a lot of options. One of the best things though is calculate, which you're unable to calculate right now because the tube length is not done. So if we go back here to bend in our YBC real quick, we can do that calculation, calculate the length, and go back to our load, and then we'll calculate that optimal load position. So what this is exactly where you load the part, it is actually going to start bending. It's not going to move the Y in any direction. It should just clamp up and start bending unless you make adjustments to that first leg. And then you would need to go back and redo this as well if you wanted to maintain that. And if you noticed, it put it in up here to your Y load position. Unload, you can do the same thing. There's many options here, speed, stuff. Leave it to 0. And like I said, it's very descriptive. It goes through, tells you what you need to know for pretty much everything that's on here. Do you want to remain the clamp last bend? A lot of times this is something you want to do to keep the part from falling out at the end of it. So pretty much just go through the list, things you want. You can select those, and if you've got questions, always feel free to call us. And one of the last things is enables. We're not running a manual, call it mode. We're going to run closed and dry cycle. A lot of times this one messes with people because it actually locks your PDA down, and there's not as much description here. So what happens is a lot of people will turn this on, and then you've got a hydraulic PDA and it never moves. It'll never move forward because of that. And what this is for is to prevent it from running into the back of your clamp die bolster or your clamp die when it's bending. This can cause issues, cause things to break, so they disable this to allow you to dry cycle without running a tube. You can also disable B during bending. Sometimes parts have twist. This will help you out there. You can run from the console, foot switch, or some of these we can do a robot interface as well. Collet mode, you got a manual. Automatic would be set up if you had another way, a foot switch or a collet start button, something like that. And then you've also got the collet close last bend enable. We don't want that because we're going to let go. We're going to get out of the way. Finally, the last thing to do, we try to promote people to do this, is set up spring back and elongation. What you can do is you make a couple of test bends, your desired angle that you want to bend, both a small and a large. We usually try like 20 and 120. So if you bend a 20-degree here and then say a 120 here, you want to try to get as far as you can. And then you tell it the CLR you're bending on, cut lengths that you're dealing with. And then you can actually go in and activate this spring back test part, which will take you to a test, which automatically writes your program just to make these bends. And you can actually input the data here. And what this does, this will allow you to get your parts pretty much right on the first time, every time, as long as your material is the same. What we mean by the same is you've got to have the same heat lots. You've got to deal with the same, because as we know, a lot of times when we get different heat lots off of different mills, the welding's a little different, the cooling's a little different, so you get a little difference in the hardness. So you're going to see a little difference in the spring back of these tubes and also the elongation, which is a lot of wall thickness dependent. But once you do all that, nothing to do there. You can save this, close it out, and we'll go into sim mode real quick. As you can see, here's our bender. And if we hit play, no errors, no warnings, everything's good. We can move around, we can look at this. There we go. Part bent. So this would be good to go. I would want to check it and then make any corrections if need be. But everything here is good to go. Hope you enjoyed learning and understanding programming of G2 BendPro.
Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Good day. Safe bending.